All right, so welcome. I'm going to introduce you guys to one of my favorite Zimbabwean artists. Now, this person here has done so much that I actually needed like a paragraph just to read exactly what she's done. It's amazing. And I'll tell you what, we're going to discuss a lot of things. If you're an artist, you're definitely going to want to stick around for this because there are some important life lessons for you as an artist. And if you're a music lover, you're going to want to stick around because there's an incredible journey. And I'm here to introduce you to this artist here, none other than Gemma Griffiths. Gemma, welcome.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Thank you so much for being here with us. Now, when I was reading through your bio and, speaking to you just briefly and listening to your music, we're going to share some of your music as well. There's something special going on. So I'm not going to give too much away, but definitely stick around to the end of that and you're going to learn more about that. And when I was looking through your bio, it was really interesting to find where you've been, your journey, where you started from, and what's brought you to this place. So I always like to go back, right into time, if you like.
Love it.
And we're going to go right to the start bring me back to Gemma, the young girl who, before she found music, what inspired you to start making music?
Yeah, so I grew up in Harare, a couple of blocks down from the city centre. And I grew up in a very musical home. My mum played the trumpet and the guitar. My gran played the piano. My grandpa played clarinet. And so I was sort of in this house that had a lot of instruments and a lot of opportunities to learn music, and we were sort of encouraged as kids, like if there's something you want to try out, like give it a go. And so I played the saxophone and the clarinets for a little bit, but then I ended up landing on trumpets and piano. And I think I started singing when I was really young. I did my first solo at 6 years old. But I actually... I think a lot of it was the way I was sort of grown up with my parents, and they used to take me to watch a lot of live music. And I remember being about 10 years old, and my parents took me to this little cafe in downtown Harare, and we walked in, and Babatuku was playing.
Oh, wow.
And I think that memory was burnt so clearly into my mind. I can literally picture it now. The whole place was like lit with these blue lights, and he was singing, and it was just phenomenal. And I think being exposed to the music, and there was always music playing in the house, just sort of put me into this melting pot where I didn't really choose music. I feel like it chose me.
Wow. Well, that's incredible. I mean, I think for a lot of us as artists, because I'm a creative person, I'm an artist as well, it's something that we often feel like you don't have a choice. If you don't do it, you feel like your soul is kind of
100%,
starving, it's dying,
100%,
right?
And it's almost like not the choice of doing music, but rather that you can't imagine not doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I think. The thing.
No, I get you completely. So from that point, 10 years old, 6 years old, you're learning the instruments, and you're just drawn to make music. And fast forward a little bit more now to deciding I'm going to take this more seriously.
Yeah.
Going to school, traveling. So let's talk a little bit about your trip to the States, because you got a scholarship, right?
Yes, yeah. So I wanted to study music, and I wanted to do that somewhere completely different, just to expand and experience something new, and I saw it as an opportunity. And so I applied to a whole bunch of different universities, and I ended up getting a trumpet scholarship.
Wow.
Out in the States. And so I went over there and studied commercial music composition mostly in composition, and ended up doing a lot of improv and trumpet performance and vocal performance as well. And it was just an amazing experience, and I'm so grateful to have been able to do that. And then ended up moving back to the continent to sort of pursue singing full time. And I started just gigging around, singing bar gigs. And
so is this at the point when you went back to Cape Town?
Yes,
point?
yeah.
So
I went to Cape Town 2015, 2016, 2017. Right. I was there for 3 years, and I was playing bar gigs and any gig I could basically get, all the open mics, and just singing, writing original music, and sort of getting into the scene again. Starting the idea of releasing and trying to make a living as a musician.
Great. So I guess you could call these maybe your years of obscurity.
Yeah.
You're learning your craft a little bit.
100%.
I want artists to really kind of zone in on this one, because I think sometimes artists have the notion that I'm going to start recording from my bedroom, and then a big label's going to come and pick me up.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen like that most of the time, right?
Not at all. I think, often you see these stories where from the outside it looks like a bit of an overnight success, and I think for me, Mugadan was a great example of that,
yeah.
where all of a sudden there was this massive jump, and a lot of people got to know Gemma. But that was 2019, and I had been working in the industry for 4 years prior, releasing music and trying a whole bunch of different things, and playing bar gigs for no money and sleeping on couches and not making rent because I was really struggling to, and I was determined to do music. And so it was the idea of like, what are you going to sacrifice to pursue this dream? And for me, it was like having a place to live and things like that,
Yeah,
absolutely. And so I sort of just pursued music at whatever cost. And yeah, I think it's a really important thing to note, is that, I'm glad I paid my dues. I'm glad I played the bar gigs for no money and hustled and learned a lot about what it is to work very hard for your dream. And it doesn't come easy at all.
I think you captured it well. I think especially when you're talking about what it took to get to the point where you mentioned collaboration with Winky D from Garden, right?
Yes.
Now that's really interesting, because I wouldn't have imagined, I don't think most people would have imagined that you would have been into the Zim dancehall or dancehall in any case, right?
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
What inspired that?
The thing is, Zim has two major music genres. Dancehall and everything else.
Dancehall number one for sure. Definitely, right?
That's so cheeky of me to say, but dancehall is king and dancehall is incredible. And so I was listening to a lot of Zim dancehall in high school. I loved Zim dancehall. You can't grow up in Harare and not come into contact with dancehall.
Absolutely.
Unless you're... you can't. If you have ears,
trust me,
you hear it. And I love dancehall. I love the energy and the vibe and the message as well. I think it's and the rhythm, all of it. I really connected with Zim dancehall when I was in high school, and I was a massive fan of Winky D. So as I left university, I ended up in 2015 doing a rendition of one of his songs, Musaroa Biggie Man. And basically Musaroa Biggie Man is this, it's this really like intense story. And I thought, what about telling the girl side of the story? Like her begging, like, Dad, Musaroa Biggie Man, Baba Musaroa Biggie Man. And so I told the girl side of the story in this sort of ballady English and Shona interpretation of Winky's song. And that was the first moment when Winky heard of me. I was a huge fan. And so then fast forward to 2019 when he contacts me and says, hey, it's Winky D. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a moment. And he said, I've got this idea. Do you want to meet up? So we sat in the car and we listened to the music that then became Garden.
Wow.
And he told me the idea behind the story of Adam and Eve. And it was just... one, exciting for me. I was a complete fan and I was in awe of his work and how he's carried himself through music and through the industry. And so I was never going to pass up the opportunity to work alongside one of the greats. And then, fast forward to 2019, Mugadan came out and I had no idea that it was going to do what it did. And it really changed my life.
I mean, to be honest with you, that is probably one of the most creative videos that I've seen.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
If you haven't seen it, I mean, after this interview,
really beautiful.
go and check it out. It's so well filmed.
Yeah.
And I was blown away because I was like, man, this is Zimbabwean music at a different level. Because oftentimes you'd find that Zimbabwean music was, mostly all about the singing, and then the visuals kind of was like, we just record something in the studio, something easy. But that was a real proper production. Yeah. I really enjoyed that. I think that video got like record numbers in terms of like streams and views, right? It was like,
it broke the record for the fastest growing views in Zim's history at the time. It was crazy.
It's absolutely nuts. Nuts. That was lovely. So fast forwarding from that, 2019, you released a song with Winky D.
Yes.
Garden hits the charts and it's amazing, right? And then 2020, first EP.
Yes.
Right. So after this whole journey, and again, I think I have to stress this because it's like, 5 years now? You started making music, you're doing it for about 5 or 6 years. Yeah. And you're now releasing your EP. What was that about? What was that like?
So Palmway was a really special EP. It was something that I wrote in tandem with another EP that came later, two very different sides of a journey. And Palmway was a a bit of a love song to Zim, to home. It had songs like Ndichatarisa on it. It was upbeat and lively and positive and full of life. And yeah, just an ode to Zim. Just these moments that I loved. And I wrote it and recorded it all whilst living on the road, which I then later released the second EP, A Girl from Harare. Yeah. So all of those were sort of written as two different sides of that journey. Yeah.
Actually, that reminds me. That's one of the songs that you did on that album, 263 with Natio as
yes.
well. That's one of the first songs I think I must have heard you on.
Really?
And it was really kind of cool because I like Natio. And
yeah,
I heard you on that song.
Man,
and I thought, wow, this is really unique. This is really unique. So I love that song. So after that, Palmway 2020.
Yeah.
Now, you did something that was really unique. I think you went traveling.
Yes.
Now, that's so strange. Can you explain that? What inspired that? You already recorded your EP now, and then you decided, okay, I'm going to go traveling.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was the other way around.
Oh,
so I actually traveled first.
Oh, okay.
But I released the story of that a little bit later. So I started traveling in 2018. Right after we recorded Mugadan, I packed my life up into a Land Rover Defender with a roof tent on top, a solar panel, fridge, and all of my instruments and my recording studio. And I just started driving. And the plan was to write music in immersion of a place. I have so much inspiration from home, from Zimbabwe, and from the surroundings, from what I'm experiencing, what I'm eating, what I'm seeing, who I'm speaking with, who I'm learning from. And I wanted to do that on the road and see as much of the continent as possible. So I started in Cape Town and drove up the east coast of Africa. And then across, I did an east to west crossing from ocean to ocean, and a lot of southern Africa as well. And I lived in that car for 2 years, and I wrote and recorded Palmway and A Girl from Harare.
Wow. So that was just you by yourself?
So I was with a filmmaker called Mark Nielsen, who filmed a lot of my music videos, and we worked on the documentary A Girl from Harare.
All right. Okay. So that's, by the way, that's like 25,000
yes.
kilometers or something like that.
Exactly.
10 countries.
Yeah.
And you're talking about like 2 years. Like that's incredible.
Yeah.
And I think, I want to just stop here because I think sometimes it's very important for artists to also kind of say, I feel a lot of artists say, how do you write songs?
Yeah.
And part of that is getting life experience, right?
100%.
Part of that is doing things like that.
100%.
Exploring.
And I think it's an interesting thing because you don't really know when creativity is going to hit you and how it's going to hit you. But when you start to recognize how it does, it's really about putting time and energy and prioritizing moments like that. And so for me, writing music in a place that inspires me, around inspiring people, and for me, nature is a really big one. So I recognized that, and I thought, you know what? I love to travel. I love this continent. I want to see as much as possible, and I want to write a lot of good music. And I want to learn from musicians and experience how rhythm has traveled and how, like, what instruments are getting played and how things change and differ. I've really experienced how music can break down boundaries and how it can break down barriers of, surface level things. One of those is how it can travel across borders, and how no matter who you are, what language you speak, what age you are, what your background is, you can connect with music. Sometimes even if you don't know what the words are saying, just 100%. A melody. Totally. And I wanted to experience that. And so, I lived in the car and I wrote music, and a lot of the big moments in my career so far, people don't actually know, have been whilst I've been on the road. Mugadan was released while I was sitting in a little cafe in Bagamoyo, Tanzania, and I was trying to connect to the internet to watch the release of this music video. Yeah. Titungamire was released when I was in the foothills of the Drakensberg Mountains, again trying to connect to some internet to make sure that I was getting it all right. Ndinewe was filmed in 10 countries across the whole experience, across the whole journey. I think it's been a massive part of my story has actually been on the road.
That's incredible. So all this is like great, positive, good stuff. I like it, but tell me some of the challenges with everything, getting like you said, a lot of the times we see this highlight reel of everything so great, especially on
100%.
social media. I think
100%.
it's also important to get grounded and to kind of go through like what are those challenges that you faced,
Yeah.
and what tell me some of those things. What?
So I think that's a very good point. You always see the highlight reel, and I think a mistake that we often make is that when we're seeing people on social media, we are often comparing our behind the scenes because we know what's going on in our lives and how many things are going wrong and how the difficulties that are coming through, and we often compare our behind the scenes to other people's final show. We say, well, they're doing this and this is how tough life is, but we've got to remember it's exactly that. You're seeing a small highlight reel. I mean, on the journey alone, I had under 5 hot showers in 2 years. I washed my clothes in salt water for 3 months, and I remember finally washing them in fresh water and being like, oh my gosh, this feels so amazing. Little things like that, getting stuck in situations and having to find ways through things. But as an artist as well, I mean, it's not an easy industry. You have no idea what is going to be the song that changes your life, if there is going to be one. You have no idea there's only so much you can do, and you're being vulnerable. You're giving a piece of yourself to the world and opening yourself up for whatever opinions of all these people that you don't know may or may not have of that, that piece of art and that piece of yourself. And so it's not easy. I think the thing that I've just hopefully managed to do is to keep remembering that success doesn't look like a straight uphill climb. It really is twists and turns, and go through phases of incredible growth and then phases of complete stagnant nothingness or places where you're kind of feeling like you're going backwards. And then to do something that is very vulnerable and very personal, you're also then dealing with normal life stuff like loss and maybe people, not connecting with you the way you want, or misinterpreting something, or, not putting so much into a song and then it not doing well. Things like that. And I think ultimately the thing that has gotten me through and allowed me to see the progress is knowing that it's not a steady uphill, that it is going to toss and turn, and ultimately that is innately human.
I think that's a very profound way of putting it, and I think that is part of your life lessons that you've learned from picking that up. I think it's a way to stay balanced, stay grounded as well.
100%.
Because I mean, I don't know about you, but I know what your motivation is for making music. So if I was to ask, for example, at the end of your career, what do you want to be known for?
You know what? That's a good question. I think I do music for 2 reasons. 3 reasons, maybe.
Okay.
We'll see by the end of this how many reasons I do it for. I do music because I can't imagine doing anything else. I think that's my number one, is that my motivation for doing what I do is because I do it for music, the way it makes me feel, the way it allows me to heal from things. There's a lot of music that I've written, and ultimately that's how I started. I started as a young kid writing music because it felt good to me. I didn't start as a young kid going, I'm going to be on this stage, I need to do this. And I wrote music because it made me feel good. It helped me process things. It was like therapy. It was healing. It was a safe space. And I still do that. I don't always release the music as well. Like sometimes I just write music for myself. And I think that's my number one. I think, and so then I guess I just want to be remembered by myself for that. And I guess the other half is that I've seen what music can do for me, the way that it has helped me, when you go through something like loss of a family member or a breakup or a hard time, or if things aren't going your way, I wake up in the morning, I turn on my speaker and I play music. And there have been songs that have really connected with me and saved me, both by artists in Zimbabwe, some of the greats, and artists abroad, whether it's gospel music, whether it's ballads, whether it's upbeat music that puts you in a better space. And I've seen what music has done for me in my life, and that is ultimately what I want to do. When you write a song and when you're honest and you're actually writing what you feel, somebody needs to hear that. And you might never know who that person is, and you might have no idea what that song did for someone. But I hope that ultimately I'm remembered for doing that and being that safe space and that communication for somebody else when they're going through something.
That's great. Sort of like a therapy that you transfer. I think that's where the power of music is, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
I know that when you're certainly listening to music, a lot of times you connect with the artist because their journey reflects sort of like your journey.
100%.
Right? And then you listen to the lyrics and you're like, oh, wow, it's not just me.
Yeah.
Because you might be sitting in your room and all of a sudden you got these headphones on and you're like, wow, that's exactly what I'm experiencing.
Exactly what I'm feeling. And that is it, isn't it? Connection.
Absolutely.
That's what music is for me. That goes straight back to saying it breaks down barriers. You might have no idea. You might fall in love with a song in a completely different language, or from someone from the other side of the world, or a song that was recorded before you were born. And ultimately, music transcends. It does.
Absolutely.
There's a reason it's the universal language. There's a reason it is so powerful, and it's because it's superhuman. It's not us. It's something else.
It is. It is indeed. I completely agree with that. I like the soul element of music. I think it definitely connects with us on a soul level.
Yes.
Getting slightly moving away from that spiritual side of music and things a little bit, moving on to the more commercial side of things.
Yes.
Because I know that you've done so many things. You've toured the world from India to Dubai, Australia. I mean, it's incredible. You've represented yourself and represented Zimbabwe in such a positive light. Tell me what's next for Joe.
Oh my gosh, there's so much coming. Yeah, we've had a crazy past year and a bit. We've traveled. I've been so privileged to travel alongside some incredible artists. The Australia part of the tour in Dubai we did with Alec Macheso, which was amazing. But yeah, we've done a lot of live performance, and now it's time for the next step. I'm releasing new music very soon, and I think what's coming next, and I've been in studio and I've been working really hard, and I think what's coming next is something I'm so excited about, not only musically, but as I said, spiritually, and sort of this project, this song that I'm dropping, which is called Ndichatarisa, is probably the most personal song that I've ever dropped, that I've ever written and released, because like I said, normally when I often write music as a healing for myself, and this song I wrote at a time earlier this year when I went through something really big and really hard, and I just stood in the living room when everything happened, and it was like a moment of surrender that I haven't really ever experienced, where I stood in this living room in the midst of complete chaos and just pain, and I looked up and I just shouted, God, I can't do this. I can't do this. I need you to do it for me. I can't walk through what I'm about to have to walk through. I need you to do it. So I'm going to look at you, and you actually have to put my feet. I can't even move them. Like, you've got to move my feet.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just going to surrender and not even look at where I'm going. I'm going to look there, and you're going to move me. And it was incredibly, it was actually that I had no other choice. I wasn't okay. And I prayed and I cried and I prayed, Ndichatarisa kwa Muriwari. You got to listen to the song.
I mean, I've heard the song, for those of you who are watching this interview. And the first thing I said to you was, wow, a lot of things have been going on this year.
A lot of things have been going on this year.
I could really feel it. As soon as I heard that song, I was like, I could really feel it. And that's, like you said, the power of the music that connects with you like that.
100%. And I think the thing that happened when I recorded Ndichatarisa, I went back, I prayed this prayer, and I said, be my eyes and be my feet, and you know, life is hard right now, and I need to look to you. And then I went into studio in my room back home in Zimbabwe. I didn't even record in a studio, I just recorded at my house, and with a good friend of mine, Manucci, who was producing it, and I prayed. As I sang, I actually just prayed. I was begging. It was a please, like, I don't have an option. And I was talking to God. I forgot that I was recording. I really did. And I cried throughout the recording, and I cried afterwards, and I cry still now. And it's just, it was a moment that I realized that I had written the song and done the thing that music had done for me, for myself. And Ndichatarisa is every piece of me, the most honest thing that I've written. And it's I really hope that it does what it did for me for other people, but I also just know that I needed that for myself, you know.
That's a powerful message. I love that song, and trust me, when I heard it, I was transported to another place, and I thoroughly loved it. And I'm looking forward to the release of the song Ndichatarisa. So can you give us an idea of when that's coming?
Ndichatarisa drops on the 29th of September, right at the end of my birthday month.
Wow.
And it's also the first day that I'm back home in almost 3 months. So very excited. 29th, it's coming out, and Ndichatarisa. I'm in my Ndichatarisa phase.
Yeah. Well, I think the inspiration for the album sounds really good. You've told me a lot about it.
Yeah.
And it's going to be released in phases as well. So if you're not following Gemma, then you're going to have to follow her, so you kind of get an experience of what the song is about. Yeah. And you're going to have the opportunity to hear the story, where it's going as well. Because there is a story, there's a journey that you're going to be telling people.
There's a journey.
And I think it's so crucial to see, because I've never seen this side of you particularly. And I'm looking forward to it. I mean, where can we find you? Anyone that wants to follow you.
I'm all over. You can find me Gemma Griffiths or at Gemma Music on Facebook and Instagram and X and TikTok, and then obviously on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Music and Boomplay and Deezer and all the good things. I'm everywhere. I think it's a transformative moment. I think you're right. Haven't always shown all of the vulnerable sides, you know. You often get the happy, bubbly Gem, which is a big part of who I am. But I think it's also important to show the fact that it's not all smooth sailing, and there's a lot of pain, and ultimately I'm as human as anybody else. You know, we go through pain.
Well, that's absolutely wonderful. And I think it's wrapping it up there on a very positive note. I love it. Thank you so much, Gemma.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
And yours.
And I appreciate it. I'm sure that we'll hopefully see you again in London. I'm sure we'll see you.
Absolutely. I'll be back.
And so if you're not following Gemma, follow her. All those platforms, there'll be links, I'm sure, down here where you can follow her at. And we'll be checking you out. We'll be looking forward to hearing your music as well, Gemma. Yes. Thank you so much.
Maitabasa. Tonana.
Tatenda. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yay, that was lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No problem. No, it was
Sorry, I felt
great.
like I talked so much. Hilarious.
You made my job easy. Thank you.
Yay, we love it. This was great.